Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be something a little bit different for my channel. I thought it would be fun to have a heart-to-heart corner on my channel just to talk about the things that are a little bit heavier, more important to talk about. I love to do fun vlogs and baking videos and showing you products I love. That all is super fun and important in different ways. But I also wanted to create a little section on my channel that is just really real and relatable because I feel like that is something that I personally feel the most connected to when I watch other people on the internet to make me feel better about the things that I struggle with. If in any way, shape, or form I can help other people feel like, you know what, I'm not such a weirdo, or my mind is normal even though it doesn't feel normal, I would love to be of help. That being said, I am by no means an expert. I am not certified in any of this stuff. I personally have just done a lot of my own research with my own struggles and have found that speaking it out loud and talking to others eventually, it took me a long time to feel okay about talking about these topics with other people, but once I got to that point, it really truly made me just feel more seen and more heard and understood. Not everyone is going to understand the struggles that you go through, so just remember that it is hard for other people to relate if they aren't personally going through it, but hopefully they are there to just listen and to try to understand to the best of their abilities. I also want to say that if anybody feels like they may be triggered by these topics, please turn off this video. I won't be offended. I want you to have the most progress that you possibly can, and sometimes listening to people talk about the struggles that you're going with don't actually help in a certain stage that you're in. So completely understand that. Also, lastly, I want to talk about how disordered eating and binge eating don't necessarily equal that person has body image issues. I personally feel like they run parallel to each other, but it doesn't mean that if you are dealing with these disorders that you are also having these other issues. It can definitely lead to that, but I think body image is a separate topic that we should be talking about in another video. I'm going to try to not bring it back to that because for me personally, having these issues do equal other issues, but that's not the case for everybody. So I may bring up body image issues every now and then, but I'm going to try not to weave it in because I do think they're two separate issues that should be talked about. And you could be suffering from disordered eating and not have a binge eating issue as well. So again, these are just my thoughts and I am so open to learning more, and if I am wrong in any way, shape, or form, please let me know, inform me politely. I would love to know more. Trust me, like there is so much to learn and I'm an open book and I'm willing to learn all that I can so that I personally can overcome these issues. So this video is not going to really be a B-roll type of video. It's going to be more just me talking and sitting here. So if that is not something you feel like watching, you can kind of listen to this video like it is a podcast. I do feel like these sit-down chit-chats are probably better for a format like a podcast, but I personally don't have a podcast, so we're just gonna hang out here. If you want to watch, great. If you don't, you can put me to the side, clean your apartment, do whatever you gotta do. So I wanted to start off and tell you guys about my own story. So I think it was about when I was 19 or 20, around my first year of college, that I decided that I wanted to live a really healthy lifestyle. I wanted to get into the best shape of my life, eat super healthy. Mind you, I was already 115 pounds. I looked phenomenal and I did eat healthy, but I definitely just ate whatever I wanted. I didn't even think for a second about what I wanted to eat. If I wanted pizza, I'd eat pizza. If I wanted ice cream, two scoops of ice cream, wouldn't even have thought of that being a problem. You know, I just never looked at food like it was the enemy. I never like obsessed over food, nothing. It wasn't until I decided that I wanted to be in the best shape of my life, I wanted to be super healthy, that there became a shift on how I viewed food. So it being my first year of college, like any teenager, it is a huge transition. It doesn't matter if you're in a sorority and you're having the best time. At some point, it's a transition and it is something that you have to get used to. No matter how much you love your school, no matter how many friends you have, it's still something that is new to you. And you know, for me, I feel like I was really excited about being there, but it just wasn't quite what I was expecting. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna get into the best shape of my life. I might as well use this time to the fullest. I can eat super healthy. I can work out. I live near a beach. Let me go run on the beach. You know, like I had all these good intentions. Also, my mom is in the fitness industry, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick her brain. I'm gonna be able to do this with no problem whatsoever. I used to be an athlete in high school, and that's another thing that I think really was just such a change for me. I was so used to being on the soccer team, going to soccer practices, training for soccer, you know, in the summers to play in the fall. I was on the gymnastics team. I was just a really active kid. And then from going to sports, which you just are thrown into that active lifestyle, then going to not having sports in your life and having to just go to a gym and you're not really used to what you have to do in a gym. It's a change. It's a whole different kind of fitness, in my personal opinion. I thought, okay, hey, I can do this. I can set my mind to it. I'm gonna look so freaking good. Like, my body is going to be on point. Well, at some point, my mindset went from let's live a healthy lifestyle to let's be super restricted and the things that you should eat and the way you should be working out and how many times a day you should be working out, how many meals you need to be getting in at certain times of the day. And it just became really unhealthy for me mentally. Did I look fabulous because I was doing all those things? Yes, I did look really good. There was a point where I was probably the leanest that I had been in a really long time, even in high school when I had been doing all those sports. And that was because I was really focusing on my foods, whereas in high school, like I said, I didn't even think about what I ate. I would just eat whatever I wanted. So yeah, there was a point where I did look great, but my mental state was not great. And I think this is where people really struggle, because if you look a certain way, doesn't mean that you're not struggling mentally. And I always have to remind myself that just because this girl has the body that I personally want doesn't mean I know what's going through her brain. She could have a binge eating disorder and her body's metabolism is just revved up and it doesn't reflect the way it would reflect on my own body. So I just wanted to have this as a reminder that you should not be judging anybody when you see them on how big they are, how skinny they are, how in between they are. You don't know the mental struggles that they're going through, and that's why I want to separate the mental state of this from the physical state, because they're two separate things that both have to be worked on, but to find that balance is really hard to do so, especially when every single body is different. Everybody's metabolisms are different. Everybody's mental processes are different. So to find that what works best for you isn't going to work best for somebody else. And by viewing these videos on how people work out and eat healthy, those are just learning tools. That doesn't mean that you should copycat them, because it might not be what your body needs. And there are so many different variables on how your body will respond. You know, what kind of diet you need. Do you need the Mediterranean diet? Do you need the intuitive diet? Do you need the keto, paleo? You know, whatever. Different things work for different people. And then as for the mental struggles, do you need to go to therapy, or is just talking to your friends and family going to help you? There's so many different approaches that you can go with. Hello, helicopter. We're talking about something serious here. So yeah, okay, I forget where I was going with that, but let's talk about what disordered eating is, because for a really long time, I felt that I was personally crazy. I didn't view food as an addiction. I didn't even think that was possible. And I think a lot of people, especially the older generations, they think, oh, well, everybody struggles with this. It's normal, you know? People go up and down, up and down. It's not normal when it's changing your behavior and your happiness. That is to a point where it is not normal. Yes, it's normal to sometimes overeat. My grandma was actually the one person that I would always hear say, like, how much food is an addiction. And I really felt like not many people understood that, and that wasn't more of a research topic back in the day, you know? Now I feel like people are very aware that the food that you consume can give you the same release as taking certain drugs. And the behaviors behind your obsession with food can be the behaviors of an addict. You know, for a while I thought, okay, well, this is just like my problem. Maybe I'm taking this to the extreme. No one else has experienced this. But I feel like now that I'm just so much more aware and there's so much more research done, and the internet is a great place where on social media they do talk more about mental health and body image issues and normalizing bodies and normalizing mental health issues. And so now I feel like people are more aware, and I feel like I know so many women and men that struggle with these problems, looking at food in a disordered way. And it makes me so sad, because food shouldn't be like that. Food shouldn't make you feel stressed out or uncomfortable to be around, and you shouldn't have to be thinking about it 24/7 like my mind used to and still kind of does. It's not fair to live like that. So I came across this term called disordered eating, and it finally clicked for me, and I was like, whoa. And the person that brought this to my attention was this guy on Instagram. His name is Family Food Dude, and he reviews a bunch of junk food, ironically, on his YouTube channel and then on his Instagram. But he struggled really badly with disordered eating, binge eating, and he did a whole entire vlog series on it, and it changed my life. It truly changed my life. I wrote him and I was like, I cannot express to you how seen and heard I feel from those videos. Like, it makes me teary-eyed thinking about, because he broke it down into so many different topics that made me feel like, wow, okay, I'm not a total weirdo, and like other people totally struggle from these things too. So a lot of the verbiage that I'm going to be telling you is things that I have picked out from the 2 or 3 videos that there's like 18 videos on that playlist or more, but I had watched 2 or 3 videos that I felt would be perfect for my video, and I wanted to get a few of his messaging points across. I will absolutely link his videos down below in the description box. He goes really into detail. He honestly verbalizes it a lot better than I could ever, but I still want to get the message across on my own channel, just in case you guys never stumbled upon his. So disordered eating is not an eating disorder, but it can absolutely lead to one. And so you may be wondering, like I was, well, do I have disordered eating? What does that mean? What are the symptoms for me to look at to see if that is a problem of mine? So one of the symptoms is if you view food as bad food and good food. No food is bad. Food is food. It sits there. It's not doing anything to harm you. It's not waking up in the kitchen at night and coming into the bed and beating you up, you know? Food is just food. And of course, you should be educated on the foods that you should be eating because they are healthy for you, the benefits of those foods. But you should never feel stressed out around eating food, which is another symptom. If you feel stressed or upset or uncomfortable around food, those feelings should never come up around food. And for me, when I heard that, I was like, well, there's people that like can sit around a cookie and not like constantly feel like, oh my gosh, should I eat this cookie or should I not eat this cookie? And it doesn't even like cross their mind. And there are people, I know it's hard to believe when you're going through it and you're like me, who's struggling with having food around them. There are people who don't even think 1 second about the food that's around them. When it's the junk food, the salty food, whatever food that makes you feel like I need to eat right now, there are truly people that just don't even think about it. And for me, that concept just was crazy because I couldn't stop thinking about it if I wanted it. So then there is rigid eating and constantly having to work out, be on a schedule for your workout. They are two separate. Again, you can be super rigid in your eating and then you may not be focusing on the working out at all. For me personally, they went hand in hand. So I would have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And don't get me wrong, these aren't excuses, because for people who have the mental state where it works for them and it clicks for them and eating every 2 to 3 hours is not a problem for them and that they can be on top of it, great. For me, if I went 4 hours, it would stress me the fuck out. I'm sorry, I don't usually curse, but this topic is like very sensitive for me because now that I'm thinking about like what I used to go through, it's just so stupid. It really is. And I know there's body competitors out there who they have to do it a certain way, but that's a restrictive and rigid way of eating and working out, and it's not sustainable. It is sustainable for a very few amount of people in the world, but the majority of people, it's not sustainable. And that's not an excuse. That's just facts. The point is, food should not rule your life. Food should be fun and enjoyable and should help you create memories and should be a beautiful thing when you're making your own food and you're making nutritious food, and every once in a while you're enjoying a slice or two of pie and you're not constantly thinking about it. For me, I did and I still do think about food all the time. I don't as much. I feel like I have definitely made a lot of progress. For example, back in the day, I would think about food so much to the point I would have a meal and within 2 to 3 minutes of finishing that meal, I would be obsessing over my next meal. where I was gonna get it, when I was gonna get it, how I was gonna get it, and if I couldn't get what I wanted, it would be a freaking issue. And my mom will be the first to tell you I would just be so rude and so mean to people that wouldn't agree with like what restaurant we wanted to go to or what items I could get from the grocery store. It became like a behavioral change in me, and it's something that it's just like so annoying to think about, like that I was like that. And every now and then I do get that like, ooh, I really want that, but I've also become really good at adapting and being like, okay, well, if the person I'm going with doesn't want that, it's fine, I can find something else somewhere else. In the past, not the situation. I would be so upset, like I would physically feel sad that I couldn't go to whatever restaurant I had my mind set on. And that's not okay. It's not okay to feel like that and for that to consume you. Another thing about disordered eating is the coping mechanism. So if you are using food to cope in any way, shape, or form, you know, you shouldn't feel super sad and want to eat food every time. Yes, it's normal for every once in a while something bad happens and you eat some ice cream. But if it's something you're reaching towards every single time you feel sad, there's a problem. Again, it goes back to the behaviors of doing something without that balance. That's just never healthy, and eventually it will come to a bigger problem. So for me personally, I thought that emotional eating was just when you were sad or anxious about something. But I now know that for me, it's when I feel happy too, or really excited, or I want to celebrate something. And I do think that our society, most society, not just the US, but just everyone in general, and cultures in general, there's food everywhere. If you think about it, you celebrate with food at your birthday parties, at your holidays. Everything does revolve around food. So it is really hard for someone who is struggling with unhealthy food behaviors to constantly be around the source of struggle. You know, with drugs and alcohol and those addictions, you have to search that stuff out. That's not as right in your face all the time. I mean, it's definitely there, but it's not food that you have to survive. Like, food is there because you have to survive off of it. You don't have to survive off of drugs or alcohol. But food addiction, it's really hard because it's around you all the time. For me, like, I realize I eat a lot when I get super excited. It's just something I do. I don't know why, but the moment something exciting happens to me, I'm like, oh, get the cookies, get the ice cream, let's celebrate. For me, I love sweets. Sweets is my issue. Not a big salty person. I know some people, salty chips and all of that is their thing. For me, it's baked goods, it's ice cream. I just love it. I love sweets. And as we are becoming more aware of, sugar is so bad for us, and it can really shift the chemicals in your mindset and become addicting. So it makes sense, because sweets is my problem, why I have these struggles, because physically my body becomes addicted to it. And not everybody's body reacts the same way. Some people don't even think about sweets. Some people can eat a sweet 1 or 2 bites and truly be okay. I can't relate. I cannot relate. But I should have 1 or 2 bites and know it's okay, I can have this tomorrow, and not stress about it, not stress about not eating that whole cookie. And some will say it's normal, people want to eat what they want to eat, it's okay if you have the cookie or 2. Yes, it is completely okay to have the cookie or 2 if it's not causing you that emotional distress. For me, I will not stop thinking about that damn cookie until the next morning. It's a cookie. It's just a cookie. It will be there tomorrow. It will be there in 2 weeks. It will be there in a few months. And if you eat the cookie, you shouldn't feel guilty for eating the cookie. You should eat the cookie, enjoy it, and move on. And if you gain a few pounds, now you know, okay, well, maybe I should eat a few less cookies. Find the balance. Find the balance. And that is something I struggle with, is finding the balance. Now let's move on to the binge eating topic, because binge eating is something that I personally have struggled with, and I still struggle with, and it upsets me because I felt like for a really long time that I was maybe over this struggle. I didn't realize, like, oh, until recently, I guess I'm not over this. And it really sucks to come to that realization because you put in so much hard work. And for me, it makes me feel like, hold on, let me give you the definition of what binge eating is, and then I'll go into my field. So binge eating is eating copious amounts of food in a little period of time and feeling like you have no control, that you just want to keep eating and eating and eating even when you're full. It can honestly sometimes become painful because your stomach literally cannot handle all that food, but mentally you're not satisfied. You feel like you need to keep eating that sweet or that salty food because you just aren't feeling full, or you're not feeling that satisfaction. For me, it almost feels like it comes in waves. There'll be days where I can eat a normal amount of food and not even have a problem, and then there's some days where I just want to continuously eat. Even when I know I'm full, I just need to keep going. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I have a problem. I know, and I'm in tune with my body enough to know that I am full. Why does my mind not associate that? I also want to make it very clear, I never got to the point of where I would force myself to throw up because I felt guilty, but I did get to the point where I would eat so much food that my body's reaction to eating all that food would be to throw up. So it's not like I'm trying myself, but my body's telling me, you've got to stop eating so much. I remember this time in Greece, I was so obsessed with this one pasta dish and this banoffee pie. Oh my gosh, the dang banoffee pie in Europe is amazing. It's delicious. I was so fixated on having that for every single meal. I literally even went to the restaurant to hide the fact that I was going there to eat, even though it was lunchtime, but I felt so guilty about eating the pasta and the pie and feeling like I was being judged for it, that even though they may not have even been judging me, but I created that storyline. So I went there and I ate so much freaking banoffee pie. I got so sick that night and I was throwing up, and my mom was like, what happened? And then she realized, your girl ate like 2 banoffee pies in one sitting and a whole shrimp pasta that was like this big. And I'm 5'1", mind you, I'm 5'1", I am short, and my body was saying, you've got to stop it. But my mind wasn't. That story, every time I think about it, because that trip was so great other than that one incident, it just makes me sad that like that's a standout out of my trip. That I remember that, not the most, but it's definitely something that comes to my mind when someone brings up Greece. And it sucks. Like, it makes me so sad that food had such a hold on me to the point that my body was telling me, like, you gotta stop, and I didn't stop. Now, if binge eating happens every now and then, it's not a disorder, but if it starts to become a regular occurrence, that's when you should check in with yourself and see, do I maybe have a problem here? Should I be a little bit more aware of my food behaviors? Because if it is affecting your behavior on a regular basis, there is a red flag there. So for me, that super focus on food and having to get what I wanted, and then when I did have it, if I had that pint of ice cream or if I had, the Oreos that I wanted, it wasn't just having it and having, a good amount of it. It was having all of it. I was an all or nothing kind of person. If I was super healthy within my day and I got to dinner time and I wanted dessert and I had a few bites of the ice cream, and I'm like, oh well, I shouldn't have had the ice cream to start with. I might as well just finish it all. And that all or nothing mentality is really detrimental to you because it becomes a pattern, and it becomes, okay, well, tomorrow I'll get back on track, right? One day you mess up, you're like, okay, tomorrow I'll get back on my diet or whatever. Those are normal things that people say, but it's not normal when it becomes a everyday occurrence of excuses, of going all or nothing, eating a huge amount of food all the time. I hope I'm not sounding redundant. I'm just trying to make sure that I hit all the topics that I feel like were really helpful to me. And it makes me nervous talking about these things, so I may be stumbling over my words, or I may not be using the right word, but I just am trying to get the message across as best as possible, so bear with me. So if you're searching food out, if you're hiding food from people, like I used to hide my food all the time because I felt super guilty. I would hide it from my parents, I would hide it from my husband, my now husband, then boyfriend, but I just didn't want to be judged because I just wanted to eat a lot. And everyone knows that if you're eating too much, that's just not healthy no matter what it is. Can't stress it enough. Balance is so important, and I think that's just the hardest thing for people to find that balance, because everyone's balance is so different. And so for a while, I had really gotten the binging under control. After I watched that vlog series, it just really clicked with me, and I started just to still eat what I wanted. I just really focused on not binging, not overeating all the time, because I knew that there was an emotional tie to that, and if I was gonna ever change it, I had to change and figure out why I felt the need to do that. What emotionally was wrong with me that I needed to focus on fixing? Was I anxious? Was I sad? Was I happy? What was going on with me to feel compelled to eat all this food? For that year and a half, I ate whatever I wanted, but I ate it in small amounts. I had good portion control. Every now and then I feel like I'd have overeating, which is different than binge eating. I would overeat some stuff, but I wouldn't binge to the point where I felt sick or it was a behavior that I felt guilty about. So I felt like I had it under control. And then when COVID hit, I feel like the binging had picked up back to where it had been, but not as bad. It made me really sad because I felt like I had made all this progress, and it still makes me sad and nervous because am I always gonna have to deal with this for the rest of my life? Like, I don't want to have to always view food in this way, and maybe it is something that I'm gonna always have to deal with. I hope not. I hope that I can get my mind to the point, and I do have hope because I know that I am a lot better than I had been, but it's just still frustrating that I'm still having these problems when I feel like I had really worked towards it. And maybe I just have a lot more work to do, and I will get to that point, but it's just something that is frustrating and disappointing. I have these phases of being so healthy. There's some days where I'm just freaking on it, and there are other days where I'm on it, and then all of a sudden I ruin it, and it's that all or nothing thing, and it's just so dang frustrating, and it happens more than it should. And it sucks because you feel judged even when maybe people aren't judging you. But I do work in an environment where health and wellness is very important. Everyone is pretty dang fit, and not that they aren't dealing with other things, but you know, their bodies are great, they look great. And so when I'm gaining weight, I don't want to make it a body thing because we'll talk about this later, but it does make me feel really self-conscious and upset. But for some reason, it makes me want to eat more. I don't understand that. I don't want to be that way either. But I guess because it makes me have that emotional feeling of being upset, I'm not utilizing all the resources, or I don't look like the people who come in and out of my office. The emotional tie is tied to the binge eating, so I feel the emotion, then it means that I automatically want to be triggered to eat something bad. It really sucks. It does. But I was on a hike with my friends the other day, and I do have to say that they helped me more than I think they realized. One of the girls told me that yes, you're going through these issues, and those issues are valid, and if you're unhappy with your body, it does suck, but it doesn't mean that's how it's going to be forever. She reminded me that you may be idolizing this person's body, but that person who has the perfect body may never be able to have children. You know, people's lives aren't perfect, and just because someone has what you want doesn't mean that they're struggling with something else that you have. And I think that's so important to remember. And I really hate being the person to complain about my weight. Like, I truly, if you told me in high school one day you're going to say negative things about your body and not feel good about yourself and have these struggles towards foods, I would have laughed at you and be like, me? No freaking way. I wouldn't have believed you because I wasn't that person at all then. But I became that person now. And what's really annoying that I do, trust me, I'm aware of the annoying things I do, but what the really annoying thing that I do is I complain about my weight to my husband, to my parents, whatever, but then I eat the dessert right after. It's like I'm complaining about how I've gained 20 pounds and what is wrong with me, I'm working out, I'm eating healthy, blah, 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 I don't understand, but then I'll go and eat, you know, copious amounts of dessert and not change my behavior. But yeah, those are my thoughts, and I know that this topic makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It's a shame. It should be normalized. Your struggles shouldn't be judged. And I do think, here's another thing, I do think if it's always a topic of conversation, that it's also a red flag. Constantly talking about food and analyzing food, that's not a healthy mindset as well. I think it's really healthy to talk about your struggles, but if you're nitpicking the things that you eat on a daily basis, or maybe not even a daily basis, but very frequently, that's not healthy either, and it should be a red flag that maybe you should talk to someone about it. Get again and check with yourself and see why you're doing this. Why are you feeling this way? Because there is something deeper there. So for me, I want to rewatch that vlog series that really helped me, because I feel like that is a nice little reality check, as in a mental check and a food check, to get back on track and to still eat the things that I want to eat. And you know what? Maybe, and when I say this, I know that some people watching this are going to think, well, you're making excuses for yourself, but maybe the body that I want to have isn't compatible with my mental healthiness, and that's something that I'm going to have to be okay with. Maybe I won't have 6-pack abs or 4-pack abs ever again. I would love that. Don't get me wrong. I would love to look a certain way all the time, or even just for a short period of time would be nice. But I personally have come to the realization that I would rather have a healthy mindset, because at the end of the day, your mind is with you, hopefully, until the day you die. Your body is constantly aging. That is something that you are not going to have forever, is this perfect body that you think you need to have. But it does make me a little bit bummed out that I'm in my 20s, where my body is supposed to look a certain way, or it's at its like peak of how it could look, and I'm not like utilizing that to the fullest potential. But again, I would rather have my mental health better than look a certain way. And if I could have both at one point, that would be awesome. But I really truly have been working on how I view myself and what I want my relationship with food to be. So it's an ongoing process. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to be better. I do struggle a lot of the time, but that doesn't mean that I can't get past it. I will get past it, and I have hope that eventually at some point I won't have this tie and anxiety around food. Okay, I've been talking for quite some time, so I hope that this kind of inspired you to either do some more research to kind of reevaluate maybe your situation, or if it just helped hearing me talk about this, or if it just did nothing at all and it was just a video that you felt like watching just because you like my channel. I'm here if you have any questions, or if I can be any more of help, please let me know. It means the world to me when you guys like the video, subscribe, comment. You can also find me on Instagram. You can DM me if you have any questions. You're seen, you're heard, and everyone is going through something, and it's going to be okay. If you're alive, you're breathing, you're healthy, that's all that matters. That is all that matters. Everything else can be figured out. All right, well, thanks for tuning into this heart to heart. I hope you liked this little series that I might continue. I think I'm going to continue it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.